Good evening, Avram.
Hey.
How are you?
All right.
That's good.
So, yeah. So I'd like to talk about my article about how to turn off Google AI
Yeah, I figured.
or get rid of it, I should say. I've been getting some good feedback on that. Of course, also, we're going to have some exciting stuff coming out tomorrow, I assume, because um, uh,
What's going on with your camera?
what do you mean?
I don't know. There's like
It does seem like a,
a full house filter or something.
yeah, it's weird because I'm not like, I don't understand what it could be. Wait a sec. Did somebody get dirt on it?
That could be.
Is that possible? I let my son borrow it for like a few hours, and he might have stuck his finger all over it.
Oh, that's what I was
Maybe
thinking.
that's it.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Hold on. What should I? I have lens wipe. Should I try a lens wipe on it?
Yeah. Lens wipe should be good.
The last time I let him borrow it, he's like, "Oh, I needed to test." He's been testing Copilot on his computer, and he wanted the microphone from this.
Gotcha.
And so, let's see. Is that better?
Hey, that's way better. Yeah, that's 100% what it was.
Okay. Yeah, I was also wondering why that was like that, and I really didn't have a good answer.
Yeah, my first thought was thumbprint. It happens
because I didn't change the lighting in here or anything.
It happens to our little cameras, the Mevos, all the time. Mm-hmm. Like when you're setting them up, you put your thumb over the lens, and all of a sudden you're in an episode of Full House.
I didn't realize Full House was the.
Yeah, I've kind of
put it back on my monitor like the other day.
I've kind of always made that joke. Yesterday. Because like the last two seasons of Full House used this really soft focus on the show.
Yeah, so did Star Trek: The Next Generation seem to do that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Makes sense.
That's so yeah.
All right. And you saw everything else?
Yep.
Excellent. All right, then let me make sure everything here is in place. I think it is. Made some changes in the studio, so hopefully they don't get in my way tonight. We'll see. All right. I'm good if you are.
Yep.
All right. Recording. All right. Here we go. This week, AI is coming for your data. Adult Swim is giving back games. The EU is investigating Meta, and another streaming service is coming. It's Sunday, May 19th, 2024, and this is episode 666 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. Wherever you are and however you're joining us, whether it be on social media, Facebook, X, or Instagram, through our live streaming services, Twitch, Kick, Rumble, or YouTube, where you can join the community and get ad-free episodes of F5 Live and Piltch Point, plus content as it's edited. Or, of course, on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the studio, give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you're unable to join us live, that is okay. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll find all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along for all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a whole lot more. All right, Avram, how have you been?
All right, not bad. Getting by, I guess. Nothing particularly exciting to say at the moment. I spent a lot of time this weekend working on a Chrome extension, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, and I've been, obviously I was following your journey since you started working on that, which came about pretty quick from the time you pitched it to the time you said, hey, try this out. was a pretty rapid turnaround.
Yep. I mainly worked on it Friday night, and it took me maybe 4 hours to do the first edition, and then yesterday night I did some more changes. Anyway, but we'll get into that more later.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of same old here too. It hasn't been a terribly exciting week. There's some stuff going on over at Forge that we're pretty excited about, but we'll talk about that as time goes on. But yeah, kind of same old over here. I think we got a new roadcaster coming for on the road. But yeah, pretty calm over here. So it's been a little while. I think it's been 2 weeks. Because Mother's Day was last weekend. So any other projects? Just been kind of heads down.
Yeah, at work I have been working on some stuff with the Google GA4 API. Those who run websites know that Google is forcing everybody to switch from GA3 to GA4 for their traffic results. And so I have a bunch of tools that we use internally at my job. And so I have had to spend a lot of time. It's a completely different API. So I've had to spend a lot of time figuring it out. And I mostly figured it out. So,
Gotcha.
so that's been, I don't know, whenever I feel kind of listless and depressed, I always find something to code because that always makes me feel better. So if you see me doing a lot of stuff, you can interpret that however you will. If you see me come out with a raft of plugins, I'm not in a good place, or maybe I am because it helps me.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think I'm going to come out with. I think I'm going to work on 2 more plugins, 2 more extensions for. I do a bunch of extensions for people that are just for the folks I work with to work with our CMS, which is no good to any. But those are no good to anybody who doesn't work with us. But I have one called Search My Site, which allows anybody to search their own site that they choose from the address bar. I have this one which blocks stuff, and I had that one Silent Site, which mutes websites for you that are making noise. That got taken down because it wasn't in line with Google's new standards a few years ago, but I'm thinking of reprogramming it and bringing it back. And then I was going to do one with keyboard shortcuts where you can program up to 4 keyboard shortcuts for different websites. So if, let's say, you are always losing your Google Docs tab, and then, let's say you decided to Control-Shift-D or something. Well, that's not a good one because that would already be used. But, let's say you assigned it to Control-Shift-Q or something, right? Then it would just take you to your most recent Google Docs tab. And if you hit it again, it would take you to the one before that and before that, whatever. because I keep losing my tabs,
Sure.
So I've been thinking of doing something like that. So I don't know. Well, we'll see what else, but that's stuff I'm working on.
I totally get it. I very much do the same thing, and for the gaming center, I've been working on a point of sale system that integrates with the system that we use to manage all the computers. So, totally get it. Things start going a little weird, and
Yep.
Visual Studio comes out. That's how I deal with.
Yeah, yeah, that's that's fair. So that's kind of where I've been at, but everything's okay, I guess. So excited to talk about, and of course next week we're gonna have next week we're gonna have some interesting stuff to talk about because tomorrow, if you're watching this live, is going to be a big Microsoft announcement, Microsoft event, press event, and then there's going to be the keynote for Microsoft Build on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So I expect a lot of interesting things are going to be announced.
Yeah, should be interesting. Obviously, we'll have coverage of all of that. I will be following Build very closely, obviously, since the Microsoft ecosystem is where I live during the day. So should be an interesting week for sure. But like you said, we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. So let's get down to it. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, tablet, Xbox, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. Remember, current students, faculty, parents, and active military can save up to 10% off almost everything. To browse the products and learn more about the discounts, you can go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. Obviously, over the last year and a half, Avram, you and I have talked a lot about AI, generative AI, when it kind of hit the mainstream year and a half ago, kind of changed some things, in particular, people's view of how the internet works, how technology works, and how our intellectual property can and should be used. There's been an interesting divergence on that topic, oftentimes on posts that you create on Facebook or LinkedIn. But something interesting is happening right now. Early on, we had situations where there were big models and they were scraping the web, right? And it was what it was, right? Google was scraping the web. OpenAI was scraping the web. Anything that was public, they were just kind of taking and training off of. We have both given our opinion on that. But now we're starting to see where AI is integrating a little closer with our daily lives. And because of that, it's starting to come a little closer to home. And we've seen a couple of companies who are going a little more than public data. They're starting to integrate themselves more directly into our day. One of those is Slack. Slack AI launched in February. And since it launched, people have been looking pretty closely at the terms of use, their privacy policies, things like that, to see exactly what may or may not be going on with their policies around training Slack AI using data on the service. And there is some confusion over what is happening. If you read the privacy policy, it states that Slack can absolutely use your data. Anything that you put in through Slack, text, audio, video, photos, it can all be used to train the AI. However, they have a page that says they're not. But just because they say they're not doesn't mean tomorrow it can't change, because their privacy policy says that they can. And that's where the confusion starts coming from. There was a lot of conversation online over the last week in particular, interestingly on Threads, which I think most of us forgot existed. It's not even in our intro. But some conversation happened on Threads. An engineer from Slack came in and linked a blog post and said, "Don't worry, we're not." And the original poster came back and said, "Yeah, but your privacy policy says you can, and you don't have to tell us if you're changing your blog post. You do have to tell us if you're changing your privacy policy. And your privacy policy says you can." And so lots of conversation has happened around that. And they're not the only company whose AI is kind of all up in your face and in your business, quite literally, when it comes to Slack. Google, during Google I/O, announced a new feature coming to Android where it's going to be able to essentially listen to your calls and let you know if there are scam calls. And you hear that and you think, oh, that would be great for, say, my parents, to make sure that one of those IRS gift card scams doesn't get them. And then you think, oh, however, the way the technology absolutely works is it's spying on your phone call, listening constantly, putting it somewhere where it's then comparing it against a probably ever-growing database of potential scams and determining whether or not this particular call is a problem. Which is a problem. The idea that it might constantly be listening to your calls and uploading them somewhere is creating concern for users. Say you're a software company, you're on the phone, you're having a call with a client or a colleague about a product you're building, you probably don't want Google listening in on that call. And that's just one of many things. But even if that's not the case, I don't want anybody listening to my calls. I am having a private telephone call because I want it to be a private telephone call. So here we go again. A whole interesting new generation, Avram, of conversation around privacy and data usage.
Well, wait until you see what comes out of Build. Because my understanding, this is the rumor, right? As we speak about this, it's a rumor. But, I think there's a good chance for this, that there is going to be a feature in Windows called AI Explorer. And AI Explorer is going to read your entire screen and use it to help organize your life. Which is what Rewind AI, the third-party app, which hasn't come out, I don't think they have it for Windows yet, is also supposed to do. But obviously, if Microsoft builds it in, then that would make it a pretty prominent feature.
Yeah, for sure. And, the whole point here is that this is the first of many, right? These two, one very strictly on the business side, well, not strictly on the business side, but certainly focused on the business side with Slack. And Android is an everybody product. This is the first wave. There's going to be a lot more of this. And I think as consumers, as users, we're going to have to start knowing more about the structure of the products we use in a way that's really not great for a normal consumer.
So if you say we're going to have to, therein lies the issue, right? We think that you have to. We think, you and I think that people should be very careful about where their data is going. Sure. But I am sure that Google and Amazon and Microsoft and OpenAI and Slack don't are counting on most people to not complain and not look too closely uh, uh, and not look too closely at what is data is being shared, how it might be used. And we've all become extremely desensitized also to our data being breached, right? How many
True,
data
true.
breaches have there been, right? So many. So when it's, and yet companies don't generally pay a price for that, right? I mean, maybe they get a fine, maybe
Right.
they have to pay for people to have crap crappy credit monitoring
Yeah.
subscription for a year or whatever, but they don't pay a real, they don't, their business isn't significantly hurt by these type of data breaches. So
True, true.
if you are worried about your privacy, right, you would also, one reason that you would be worried about your privacy is, I'm worried that it's not going to stay where they say, right? I'm worried that there's going to be a data breach at some point, or the company, even if it's a big, well-known, famous company like Amazon or Microsoft, maybe they're going to do things with my data that I don't like and haven't disclosed to me, that I think violate my privacy. And it's so but I think most consumers are, it's at this point, there's so much like scandal with your data that people are sort of, I bet a lot of people kind of feel like my privacy's ruined, right? Now, my privacy's been ruined for a long time. But nevertheless, I mean, like one thing that I read, for example, a few years ago that just blew my, well, I don't know, I wasn't surprised, I guess, but I was surprised that this data came out. Those stories about all the engineers who were listening in on people's Alexa conversations, right? They were getting, now they said they were anonymized or whatever, but they had all this stuff that they were listening to that people had
Yeah.
said that was recorded by Alexa and sent into the cloud, and
And a lot
some
of
of
them were
it was,
contractors.
yeah, right, right. And then I understand that they were like sharing it around and like, did you hear this crazy thing that this person said or whatever? Like, if you knew that was if more people thought about that or had heard about that, they might be like, well, wait a second, this isn't just some, like, I think we're used to computers knowing a lot about us. But when you think that it's a human who has judgment, and is like, oh man, I can't believe I heard you get in an argument with your spouse like this, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's yeah, it's not. So I think people are unfortunately not paying enough attention, and
Yeah.
that's what companies like Google are counting on.
Yeah, exactly. And, even when you think you know how something works, because the company explicitly tells you this is how it works, sometimes you find out that it's a couple thousand people in India watching webcams and not smart camera technology in the Amazon just walkout stores, right? The Amazon was real clear. They talked about the technology and how all of it worked, and it turns out all of it was a lie. There were people watching cameras in India and charging you for things in their little convenience store, right? So even when we're told it's entirely automated, it may not be. There could still be people watching,
Yep.
listening, tracking everything. And like you said, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of us have gotten comfortable with the idea that computers know a lot about us. I think MySpace started that trend, and Zuckerberg made it popular, of just saying and sharing and telling, here you go. But random actual human beings reading, hearing, watching all the time and having access to that kind of stuff, don't like it. And just because you think you know how something works because they tell you how it works, it may not. I'm surprised there's not been more blowback on Amazon for that thing, by the way. That one was wild.
Right. See, that's what I'm saying. There's not enough blowback on these sorts of things. So it really makes me think that like there's nobody pays a price for this.
Yeah.
Nobody pays a price for it. And because they don't pay a price for it, I don't think it's going there's every incentive for them to do it. What we need to do as journalists is alert people, is try to help people be aware of what's going on, and show them how they can turn those features off.
Yeah.
And
true.
Also try to make sure that companies are living up to what they say. So, if for example, this AI feature, AI Explorer feature comes out from Microsoft, I'm going to see, and I bet a lot of people, there are probably people who are much better at monitoring networks than me, are going to probably want to do a network monitoring software and see, is any of this information actually leaving the computer as telemetry? Right. Now, I don't know. We may not be able to tell for sure because maybe it's encrypted and we won't be able to. I don't know. That's an open question. But I'd kind of like to know, like, if you say that they may make the claim that this is good for privacy because it's not going to leave your computer, and so the first thing that I would want to do is see, oh, are they telling me the truth? Is it actually leaving my computer?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's always the possibility.
We all have to be.
There's always the possibility that Google says that the phone stuff is being transcribed and processed locally. There's no way, because the database can't be on your phone. But in theory, they could say that. But we have to know, right? And I think you're right. I think it kind of comes down to us to research it, to figure it out, and then make a big deal about it. Too many people in our industry.
We have to figure it out.
In the modern day, too many people in our industry have gotten into it because they want to be friends with people at Google, and we all know people like that. But we have to, and on the political side, the same thing has happened, right? It's become like this friendship thing when theoretically we're kind of supposed to be adversaries. Our job is to hold them accountable, and I think we need to get back to it on a bigger level.
I agree. By the way, this whole conversation made me think about a movie that's coming out next month called Thelma, that I will really look forward to seeing. Have you heard of it?
I don't know. I'm looking it up right now as we talk, though.
An old lady who gets a 94-year-old lady who gets scammed by a caller pretending to be her grandson, using an AI voice changer. This is a very folks. I think everybody knows this is a very common scam these days, right? So she gets scammed out of $10,000, and then she and her friend set out to catch on a detective quest to catch the scammer. So that's a movie that's coming out next month.
I can't wait.
Anyway, so that sounds like a fun movie to me. But anyway, you can see that this is kind of breaking through into the, I don't know if it's breaking through into the mainstream, but anyway.
Enough so that there's a movie and it's not like a small movie.
Yeah.
It's got Parker Posey and Clark Gregg in it. It's not like it's going to be a small movie.
Yes, and Shaft, Richard Roundtree. So
I didn't get down that far.
Anyway,
Oh yeah, there he is.
So yeah. So anyway,
I got distracted, Agent
yeah,
Coulson, and just didn't scroll down any further.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Sounds like fun to me. I'll
Yeah.
definitely be watching it when it becomes available for streaming. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of interest in this topic,
Hmm.
and we have to keep, kind of beating the drum that like it's getting worse. So
Yeah.
I understand what Google is saying about like trying to stop the scams, but the main thing to stop the scams is common sense.
Well, that's true. Yeah. And we've talked about even here about doing some short how-to videos on scam awareness for a less techie audience. Because like, sorry, mom, you might be listening. My mother falls for the Facebook scam. Look, I found this lost dog, and you share it, and then 2 days later they turn it into a home rental scam. She falls for those
Uh,
twice a week. So we've talked about doing kind of short videos on it, and I think I may have just been sold on doing a whole series on a common sense type operational security stuff. So,
yeah,
all right, well, another project. This one won't involve Visual Studio though. Um, anyway, yeah. So AI is going to seep its way into our lives more and more. We need to be aware of it, where it is, and how it might affect us. And I think we're going to try our best to help with that process. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. You can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to piltchpoint.live/PureVPN. I find it fascinating that after all these years, with the new song, it is now me that jams out to the opening music during the transition.
I feel very pensive today. I feel very pensive about our topic,
Yeah,
uh,
and our
because
robot
it's a
overlords.
topic that I have very strong feelings about. As anyone who's read anything I've written the last year or has listened to this show
Yeah,
knows, I'm very concerned about the use of AI to as an arbiter of the truth,
yeah,
copying, plagiarizing information from journalists and from other reputable sources, and then presenting it ex cathedra on behalf of the AI vendor, particularly Google.
yeah,
So we talked many times about Google Search Generative Experience, otherwise known as Google SGE. Uh, and it had been in beta for about a year or so. And uh, throughout the time it was in beta, it was still terrible. But, um, we could take solace in the fact that most people on the internet don't join betas. I do, but, most people don't. This past week, Google had its I/O convention, got up on the stage and announced, good news. We're rolling out AI overviews to everyone in the United States. It's out of beta. Now, the AI overview is what they now call Google SGE, so it's the same thing. Um, and What does that look like? Well, as a quick reminder, let me share my screen and show you it. So, oops, I always hit the camera thing. Okay, so over here I have um, over here I have a search view. And as you probably know, I don't think that using people's data as training data without consent is fair use. But I asked Google, is training data fair use? And it gave me this AI overview that says, quite authoritatively, according to U.S. copyright law, training AI models is using publicly available internet materials is generally considered fair use. This is because the AI uses the copyrighted work to create something new rather than copying it. All right, so here, this is like a laundry list of things that a pro AI as fair use people would say, and but however, OpenAI is currently being sued by a number of parties. Oh, those terrible parties! How dare they? Well, let's see where they plagiarized this idea from. You can see their featured snippet often matches what the overview says, and the featured snippet says OpenAI has responded that training AI models using publicly available internet models is fair use. So they are presenting the opinion of one very interested group as a fact, right? According to U.S. copyright law, that sounds like a fact. According to this law, it's a fact. The objective way of talking about this would be to say, well, some people, industry people say that it is fair use, and there's a lot of people say that it's not fair use, and it's still being litigated in court. That would be the down the middle way to answer this question. But it didn't answer it in a down the middle way. It answered it in a way that's misleading because it makes it sound like an objective truth here. And a lot of people will see that Google gave them an answer and they'll say, oh, Google must know. I trust Google. I've been using Google for 20 years. I trust Google, right? Google must give me the right answer. It doesn't say it could be wrong, by the way. It just says here, generative AI is experimental. So it gives you wrong answers. And it also, can give you things that are contradictory. Now, unfortunately, it's not always, if I do a few now, they may or may not give me an AI overview, and they may or may not give me an answer that's correct, right? So so let's try one, but we can't say for sure that give me a question that you think is likely to result in a factual claim, Scott.
Hardware questions are usually pretty good. Best video card for Fortnite or something like that. Those types of things usually.
It's so what I have found is lately it usually will not give me an AI answer for that. Let's see.
Okay.
So it didn't.
Yep.
But I can, in some cases, it doesn't automatically, and you can hit generate. So let's see if it gives me that. Sometimes you generate and it still won't do it. So let's see what it says. According to logical increments, at least it's citing somebody, but for epic settings at 1440, they recommend at least a 6650. I mean, this isn't a terrible answer. Right?
Yeah,
this isn't a terrible answer, but it does take up all my screen, so that's not great. But in this case, I kind of asked for it because I clicked on it. But some other things, maybe not. So I've seen screenshots of people who asked how to prevent kidney stones or how to cure kidney stones in 24 hours, and they were told to drink their own urine. Now let's see. Now this may it's random, right? So you may get a good answer or not. Doctors recommend drinking enough fluids to pass. There, we got it. You see this?
Yeah.
Doctors recommend drinking enough urine to pass about 2. Oh, no. To pass, drinking enough water to pass urine. Okay. Some of them actually said to drink urine. Um,
That seems like
but
a terrible
anyway,
idea.
uh, some people have gotten that as an answer, right? It's medical advice, right? So they can give you advice that's bad. Or like during Google's demo, they showed an example where they asked how to how to get film that's stuck in your camera, how to fix film being stuck in your camera, and it
Uh-oh.
said to open the camera and pull the film out,
Yeah,
right?
which is
So
obviously
like,
rule number one not to do.
right. So, it's things like that that it gets wrong. And then even in things where it's controversial, like some people believe that it's fair use and some people do not believe it's fair use, it's going to give you an opinion and present it as a fact. So a lot of people, including me, don't like this. And they don't like it appearing on top of their search results. Now, the good news is if you're sitting at home and you're trying this and you're not getting it, these AI overviews all the time, they're not putting it on every page. It seems to be somewhat random, and there's a lot of things that aren't showing it. Why aren't they showing it on every page right now? I think there's some actual ways in which this is not 100% in Google's self-interest. For one, it's not an ad, so it's pushing ads down the page. For two, I believe that this uses a significant amount more electricity and compute power than regular search results or even the featured snippet box, uh, right? So it's not necessarily right now doing great things for Google economically, except that it's part of their, I guess, strategy to switch from being a search engine to being a arbiter of truth and a publisher, which I don't think that they should be. I don't think people should trust something that's been spit out by a bot, even if it looks correct. Like people need to be, informed consumers of information. They need to question where the information comes from matters. Sometimes they will give you sources there, but that doesn't mean that these sources are great. And you still have to go and click through and see, is this exactly what this source said? Because they might cite it and it might not actually be what was on that page. Or it might be something where the page is arguing against something like, oh, some people say that it's fair use, but we don't think it is. But it might actually take that quote, and give that as the answer, because it can't distinguish like reputable information from disreputable, jokes from seriousness, right?
Right. Satire.
And wants it wants to answer everything, even if it's something weird. So I don't know if this is going to happen now, but so my son was asking before about the different age groups, like Gen Z, whatever, Gen X, millennials. So I just ended up typing by accident, how old is Gen D? And it told me that, oh, well, actually, this one sounds better because, which, um, because before it gave me an answer saying that Gen D was born between 1659 and 1675, like during the Renaissance. So,
Well,
um,
I mean, if you were to step generations back, I mean, maybe, but
that's possible.
that seems
It's
like it's
not.
way too
It's
early.
also I think it's way too early. Also, no one has been labeling those generations, right?
Right.
Um, right. So anyway, it's you can't always come up with the best examples while you're doing it, but it's a problem. So if you don't like this, as I don't, what are your options? Well, you have a couple, but one of them is not to turn this off in settings. Google does not let you turn it off in settings. So what you can do is you have two choices. One, Google just added a new tab called Web. And you'll notice that web is what the internet used to be, search engines used to be, a collection of links. It doesn't have anything but web links. It doesn't have videos. It doesn't have discussions. It doesn't have people also ask. It doesn't have featured snippets. So, so if you like those other things and you don't like the AI overview, well, you're going to give them up to be on this web tab. Now, good news. You can get to this web tab without doing what I just did and clicking here. Let me show you. First of all, I have created a new plugin, which I'm going to share. It is called Bye Bye AI and Bye Bye Google AI, and you can install it on Chrome browser. You can install it on Edge. You can install it on Brave browser. So you can say I have a whopping 6 users because I just put this public. So if you go here and you install Bye Bye Google AI, you'll see that when you add the extension, it'll pop you up the intro page here, which gives you a set of options for what you can hide. You can hide AI overviews, but if you want to hide other things like discussions, sponsored links, ads, shopping blocks, the people also ask, the videos, the featured snippets, you can hide all of them. So now if I go to, what was one that I just did? How old is Gen? Oh, well, that was here. Now, if I go and I do how old is Gen D, it's going, you see, it erased all that stuff. I'm not on the web tab, right?
Nice.
Right. You know, I had one that I was using, which was like pimples or like pimple popping. Did you see that a bunch of stuff just disappeared? Right.
Yeah.
From the search. So, what it does, and I can't say this is perfect. It actually, I think, it may actually end up erasing your tabs here. I have to check and see if there's a way to keep that. I put this together in like a few hours. Is what it does is it basically goes through the CSS of the page. It knows what the CSS for all of these things, these different units, looks like, and then it sets the display property of the CSS to none. So it's actually just hiding. It's not really preventing it from being generated. It's just hiding it, right? It's just being hidden. And as soon as Google changes their CSS, they'll break my extension. And if enough people are using it, I guess I'll go and I'll try to change the extension to keep up with them. But I can't say that this is a definite definite win, right? Because they may find different ways to break it. What's amazing is they don't care and they allow it in their app store.
Mm-hmm.
So another feature of my plugin is that if you hit W and space, it will take in your address bar. It says Google Web Only, and then I can search for from the address bar, and what it's going to do is it's going to take me straight to the web tab. So it's not going to need to filter anything out because it's taking me to the web tab. Because the secret to going to the web tab is in your query string here is UDM equals 14. If the parameter UDM equals 14 is after the question mark in your Google search string, it's going to go straight to the web tab, and the web tab doesn't need anything filtered out because it just doesn't show AI, and it doesn't show featured snippets, and it does show ads though, but it doesn't show the other things. So you could do that. Now, what if you don't want to use my extension, but you do want to go straight to the Chrome web store? The Chrome web tab, the Google web tab. Well, I have a solution for that. So if you go into Chrome /extensions search engine, not extensions, I'm sorry, settings, search engines, which you can also get to just by going to settings, search engine, manage search engines. You can create your own custom search from the address bar. So the way you do that is you go here and you click add. You give it a name. The name is just for your benefit. You know, I'll just call it Google without AI. The shortcut, not absolutely necessary, is a key that you can hit to do this search in your address bar. But we'll talk about why that may not be necessary. I'll just make it A. Some people put like @web here or something like that. Then the URL, you could put google.com, but you can put Google base URL in braces, and that will also make this work on different versions of Google, like Google Co UK. But it doesn't really matter. Google.com is probably fine if you're doing this from within the US. You put /search ? For the parameters. What did we say our search was? It is UDM equals 14, UDM equal 14, and ampersand Q equals %s. %s is whatever you type as your query string. So now you can see under additional sites, Google without AI should be there. So what that means is if I go here and I type web, it's going to do that search for me, right? It's going to take me straight to the web tab. But what if I don't want to type any extra stuff? That's fine too, because what I can do is I can go here and I can click on the dots and select make default. Now this is going to be my default search engine. So now that it's my default search engine, whatever I type up here is going to add that UDM equals 14 to it. I don't need to hit a shortcut like @web or whatever I assigned it to, because it's the default search engine for the address bar. So so that solves the problem without a plugin, but then you're just using the web tab, which may or may not have everything that you want. So that's my spiel about how to deal with this. Unfortunately, on mobile, there isn't such a great solution. On mobile, on Chrome for Android or iOS, you can set a custom search engine, but you can't type in the address that you want. So if you go to a search engine, like if somebody created a search engine that was basically redirecting itself to the web tab, then that would be a solution. But you have to have visited an active search engine, search on it, and then it'll become available. Same thing with Safari, and Edge for mobile. But if you use Firefox as your mobile browser, they have a feature where if you go into the settings, you can add a custom search engine. You can type in what the URL for the search query is, and so you can do what I just did for your mobile browser. But unfortunately, if you're not using Firefox and you're using one of the more popular mobile browsers, they have the ability to change your search engine, but it has to be a website that you've gone to. It can't just be going to the web tab. Like someone would have to I suppose if somebody created a website called like googlewebtab.com, and then when you searched on it, it somehow redirected you, then that might do it. But it has to be like a dedicated search engine. So that's unfortunate. But and of course you can't use extensions in mobile browsers. So you can't install my extension for your mobile browser. But what do you think, Scott?
It's interesting. I love how, so I do this kind of thing too. I love to get into the inner workings of how something, like, how does the web tab work? It's in the query string. Got it. So if I do this, I can make it go. I love doing stuff like that. And I enjoy that you do as well. I also really like the alteration of the CSS approach to solving the problem.
I'm not going to,
because I've done stuff like that too.
I'm not going to take the total credit for. I mean, I didn't think that this was a feasible thing, and then I saw someone else had built an extension called Hide Google AI, and that people were recommending. And I looked at how they were doing it, and they were hiding the CSS. And so I said, I kind of would like to do this myself, but give people more options to hide things and to hide different parts of the page. And so I made my own extension that does it. But Google can break this at any time, and it can cause problems. I noticed just now, which I hadn't noticed in 2 days of using it, that it kind of makes your the tabs on the top, like all images or whatever, I think disappear. I'm gonna have to look into how not to make whether I can prevent that from happening. I don't know if that's a big problem, but I don't like it. So, um, I will. But it's kind of a blunt object, right? Like people want. I mean, I like a lot of the things, the widgets that Google does put on their search result page, like the top stories and sometimes the videos. So I, I don't mind seeing that stuff. Um, and actually, I'll be real honest, since I have to, as a journalist and as someone who publishes on the web, I have to keep track of what Google is doing. So I'm not going to really, I have to admit, I'm not going to really use my own extension except to test it, because I have to see what the experience that Google is giving most people, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
So, but if you don't publish a website that's dependent on search, then you may find this approach helpful.
And if I'm not mistaken, Avram, I believe I saw that you have written about this as well.
Yes, I have an article about this. It points to the plugin. It talks about how the manual way to do it, to just search the web tab, and it talks about your options on mobile, which are, basically use Firefox. Or you could use a different search engine. A lot of people suggested don't use Google at all, and I mean, I get it, although I don't. I mean, Bing has AI stuff, but you have to, I think, at least scroll up to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Not
not forcing
exactly.
it on you.
Stuff shows up at the
Not
top
exactly.
now.
Now they're forcing it on you.
Yeah, stuff shows up at the
Okay.
top now.
Okay. So, um, I find that the quality of results on Bing is not quite as accurate as Google still. Um, and then there's other sites. I think there was one called startpage.com, which actually takes Google's results and serves them to you, but it's in Germany or something. So I found it's very, very slow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like it takes like several seconds to load. Uh, there's not, DuckDuckGo, I don't think is a panacea. I don't think Brave is a panacea. I'd like to start, I'd love to start my own search engine. But I was looking into it, and it's not quite as easy as, well, who would think it would sound easy? But it's not quite so easy, because I haven't really found an open source index that someone is maintaining, like where you could just download a new index from them every day or something and run a search engine off of that. I mean, I haven't really seen anything like that. So to generate a good index, you need, lots of servers, you need a good algorithm to display it, all that stuff, and lots of server power. So I don't think I could do it on like $30 a month hosting. But Scott, if you want to do it, I think there's a market. I really do. I think there's a market for someone to come out with a search engine that is just search. In fact, I looked into buying this justsearch.com domain, but the company that owns it well, I think they want a lot of money for it. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's an interesting question. What what you can do to, I don't know, what the industry is going to do. But I think someone could have a successful business or a very successful nonprofit like a Wikipedia style organization that did it. So that, because I think, like, look at what a success Wikipedia is. I know it's not always right, but more often than not, it is, and it's all volunteer, and the internet depends on it.
Yeah.
Like, search is a utility like that.
Agreed.
The world needs a search engine that is just search. It is a utility that people want. Like, nobody asked Google to stop being a search engine and be a publisher. That's
Right.
Google's decision because they think it's good for their business, right? It's not something that people have been, clamoring for. Like, oh,
Right.
I hate actually having to go to authoritative websites and find this information. Please just spoon feed it to me. I mean, people are going to accept those answers because it's right in their face, a lot of them, but it's not something that they're not doing it to be helpful.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
anyway,
true.
check out my article on tomshardware.com.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea. So, especially the Wikipedia style nonprofit. That's a fascinating concept. See what you do to me. I sometimes this segment provides a lot of interesting information, and sometimes it provides a challenge. And tonight's has been a challenge issued in my direction. So while this episode is rendering tonight, I know what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if somebody would start one. It obviously would have to be a passion project for someone to get investment in it and things like that. But if you got such a thing up and running, I think it would get a good response because, like, everybody's got. Unfortunately, I think you want, like, what would be really good for the internet would be if it were a real not-for-profit and it didn't even take advertising. Like, it took donations or whatever, like Wikipedia does. It nagged you for money, but part of the problem is search is polluted right now. It's polluted by ads. It's polluted by non-search stuff. It's polluted by AI. It's not search. Like, there's a lot of people who probably just search. Just give me my search. I want to search for something. See what's out there on the internet that has it, and that's it. Like, I want to search. So, while they're getting in your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a little high-level research tonight. It's an interesting challenge, and I like interesting challenges. So, I'm gonna mess around a little bit tonight. As always, Avram, I appreciate it. This was definitely an interesting thing. When Google I/O comes around, you and I tend to head in different directions. Obviously, for me, I tend to follow the Android side of things because that's what I do. I do programming for Android and things like that. So I tend to hear those things, and you tend to hear the web things, and that's why I love these conversations, because I didn't totally miss this, but until you put your article out, I didn't quite understand what was happening, and I appreciate that you put it out and then did the extension, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention here.
Great. I look forward to talking about it more.
Absolutely, and I look forward to what we talk about next time. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by EXA. EXA brings the latest technology to gamers, offering the most immersive products for the ultimate gaming experience. They've compiled the best elements of cutting-edge ENC tech, the latest in Bluetooth 5.0 and 7.1 surround, plus extra features into their headsets so everyone can enjoy a sensational gaming experience. And they've got headsets for Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. Plus, they won't break the bank. Learn more about the headsets that are available and any current promotions by going to f5live.tv/exa. Well, a couple of months ago, we talked about an interesting issue that was going on in the gaming world. That issue was that Adult Swim Games was going to delist 16 titles that they had been the publisher of. Now, if you don't intimately follow the gaming industry, you may not know exactly what the structure is. There are two main parts to the industry. There are the developers, the creative people, the ones that sit at their computer and create artwork and program and user experience, test, all of that. And then there are the publishers. Now, when a developer is done, they might or might not use a publisher to help bring awareness, get higher reach, and in some cases be responsible for the back end, things like that. In this case, Adult Swim Games, which used to be William Street Games, was acting as the publisher for these titles, many of which were independent titles that were developed outside and then published by Adult Swim Games. Now, contracts between publishers and developers can vary quite wildly. Sometimes you give most, if not all, control of your IP to the publisher. Sometimes, if they decide that they don't want to be involved anymore, the rights revert back to the developer. And in some cases, all assets and everything transfer as well. In the case of Adult Swim, everything was going to revert back to the developers, except the actual store listings for the games. It might sound like a small thing, but some of these games have been around legitimately since the William Street days. I think one of these titles is at about a decade since it was published. And by pulling it, along with it goes screenshots that players have submitted, ratings for the game, community conversations, and in this case, up to a decade worth of these conversations and ratings and screenshots and videos of in-game achievements and things like that would all be wiped out. The developers asked Warner Brothers, the several layers up parent company that made the decision, can you just transfer the store listings to us? Here's a video on how to do it in Steam. It's really easy. It'll take you less than a minute. And Warner Brothers said no. Behind the scenes, over the last couple of months, discussions have happened, and it looks like it has worked. It looks like the indie developers will be getting their store listings transferred over to them. This is a big win for the developers. This is a big win for the fans of the game who could have had content that had been lost through this. And it does kind of go to show that, community engagement can work. Yes, Ugly Sonic got fixed in the first Sonic movie because of community feedback, but oftentimes it feels like, the things that fans say fall on deaf ears. And it's good to hear that this time that didn't happen. Last time we talked about this, Avram, we talked about, a lot of the problems with modern gaming. And it's good to see that in this case it fell on what I believe to be the right side.
Yep. I mean, it's good. It's good to actually see something finally happen, that's positive. So
one of the things that's interesting is all of these games were supposed to have already been delisted, and the date has passed, and they're still up, and they seem to still have the Adult Swim games name on them. So I think they decided earlier than the actual email to the developers that they weren't going to just delist, that they were going to hand the store pages over, and either forgot to tell people or something, because it came out this week, but the time bomb already theoretically went off and nothing seemed to happen on that date. So I don't know what they thought the benefit of holding the store pages was. In reality, that's really what it comes down to for me. It's not like they were losing anything by giving over the store page. They were shutting the game down. What do they care? The whole thing's weird.
Yeah, I agree. But, we see this all the time with places in their intellectual property, right? Companies kill games and then they sue people for trying to bring them back to life.
Mm-hmm.
They don't sell movies or music, but then they sue people for pirating the same things they can't buy. So it's not uncommon for companies to do the wrong thing. It's uncommon for them to do the right thing.
Yeah, it does seem that way. Google AI. Yeah. So I'm glad that and it's Warner Brothers, right? Since the merger, Warner Brothers has not set themselves up as the good guys in general, right? With canceled movies that were done, and Warner has been walking around in a crowded room kicking everybody in the shins and then wondering why people are unhappy. So here, I think they made a good move. I think this was the right decision. They literally had nothing to lose in doing this. The rights to the games were reverting back to the developers. They were allowed to republish them. They were just going to have to create new store pages. This takes less than 60 seconds to make the transfer. They were out absolutely nothing in this, and the fact that they fought it for this long, absolutely baffling. But I'm glad that the end result is that the developers are getting their games back, getting the store pages into their names, and a big piece of gaming history, like actual history, reviews and screenshots and all that, isn't going to be lost. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. Well, it's a new day, which means there's a new investigation into Meta and their business practices. This one comes to us care of the European Union, and it is specifically centered around the company's behavior when it comes to minors. We know that fairly recently the Digital Services Act went into effect, which has had sweeping effects on technology in general. We know that it is why in the EU, Apple now has to allow third-party app stores. It's the reason for a lot of things. One kind of batch, one section of the DSA is around youth protection. It's similar in concept to COPA here in the United States. And in particular, when it comes to Meta, there are two primary concerns that are being investigated in this query. The first is there is a provision that requires that online platforms have enforcement mechanisms, so age verifications for the age requirements. So here in the US, COPA says you have to be 13 to be able to sign up for a service, but it's kind of a self-regulated check. You know, we have to... I remember when it came out, forums had a little checkbox that says I'm 13, and that was like, whoop, we're good. It's become a little stronger over the years, but in general, it's pretty weak enforcement. The EU is not a big fan of weak enforcement, and so the DSA has got like some pretty strong rules and enforcement for the platforms. And they believe that Meta, which is the parent of Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, yes, Threads still exists, parent of those three, that they don't do enough to verify and validate the age of citizens in the EU who are signing up for a platform. And then they're also looking into whether or not Meta's algorithm violates the mental health protection rules that basically say that platforms can't purposefully create a rabbit hole that users can fall down that, you know, has negative effects on mental health, particularly negative effects on children. There have been a number of studies over the last year and a half. I think we've talked about a couple of them here on the show as they've come out, that state that Instagram in particular has some pretty detrimental effects on young people and young girls in particular. And so the EU is leaning into that and going to be investigating whether or not Meta has violated either or both of these. It's definitely an interesting move, Avram. Seems like the EU is just going down the checklist. This provision is here. We're going to start investigations on this one. Okay, next section is here. We're going to keep going, and Meta is now being caught in the crosshairs because this is the second investigation in the last couple of weeks for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, what else is new? There's a lot of, there's just a lot of abuse here. And one thing that I think is interesting, right, is AI. I mean, not to, well, I guess just to loop this in with AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much training do you think has taken place on content that was created by or referencing minors?
That's interesting.
Right? Like, if I was talking about this with my wife the other day, like, so if you put something like, so first of all, Meta has its own AI, which I presume is trained on Facebook stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So
and its icon looks a lot like Cortana.
Yeah. So this is funny because my son was talking to me about Cortana today too. He's like, "Oh, you should." I asked Windows 11 where Cortana was. I don't know, he's getting really weirdly into Windows history all the time. And he's like, "Did you know that Cortana was available in Windows 10 when it was turned off at this point in Windows 11?" Like, anyway, so
I just did a fresh install of Windows 11 with the latest ISO available from Microsoft, and the Cortana app is still there, and you have to go manually uninstall it because it doesn't work. It just comes up and goes, sorry, go away. How is that still in the ISO? It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, um, the I think one thing to keep in mind is that it's not right. So anyway, yeah, forgetting Cortana. The thing is, you have all this content from minors that is out on the internet and is being trained upon. So, if I go to ask it to make a 12-year-old, how do I know that it didn't make that it's not going to output for somebody a 12-year-old that looks kind of like mine, right? Like, how do I mean, they're not, I believe that would be a violation of COPA, but I don't know. Have we even laid out whether whether using materials created by a minor for training data would be considered a violation of any laws? I feel like it should be, but then again, I also feel like it's not fair use, and they obviously think otherwise. So, and mind you, even if Meta is not doing this, I'm sure OpenAI is, because they say they train on all the publicly available data. So that means that assuming that they aren't going into Facebook with someone's account, which they may be, there's lots of information about minors that's posted publicly, right? The sharing is set to public. So does that mean that if I posted a post about my son and it was public, that this would happen? That
Right.
he would be taking his training data? Now, unfortunately, since there's no transparency around where training data comes from, we don't know, right? But there's probably, like, if you're worried about, like advertising at children, what about using children's pictures and words without their parents' consent?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm reading an article right now about a variety of updates that were proposed to COPA in January, and it looks like some of it is trying to close some loopholes that might be exploited on this topic in particular.
I think that the way to close the loophole is to make sure that all training data is taken with consent, and then Facebook could not grant consent. And then Facebook legitimately could not and should not grant consent to OpenAI or Microsoft or Google or itself to use that as training data. But the fact that it's just hoovered up indiscriminately means that it's going to inevitably catch that. It's also going to inevitably catch CSAM in the training data, because if that's anywhere in the internet and they're trying to suck up the whole internet, it's going to catch CSAM, and then it's also going to catch like things that are copyright violations that somebody else posted. So all the AI defenders who say things like, well, if you didn't want me to train on it, you wouldn't have put it on public YouTube or whatever, where I could see it. Well, hold on a second. YouTube has lots of movies on it that were uploaded by some account without the copyright holder's permission, just haven't been taken down yet.
Right. In an average year, I have to issue something like 150 takedown notices on our content. And in the grand scheme of things, we're nobody. You know what I mean? We're not Warner Brothers or Marvel. And that stuff gets uploaded all day, every day. And I have to issue, over 100 takedown notices. just on
Right.
our stuff.
Right. Exactly. So come on,
It's like playing whack-a-mole with an attorney.
Yes, yes. So consequently, I think that there's going to be, there's going to be a reckoning
Yeah.
about this. But part of the problem about how miners' data is being used across the industry, but the lack of transparency is what's preventing that reckoning from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Wait until somebody finds that like Mid Journey created a picture of their child.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. One of the things that's interesting is um, the you mentioned CSAM, right? That I've
Mhm.
been following the FBI's journey on that, and they said that they've been struggling because the imagery that's coming out is so realistic, and B, it's imagery that absolutely mimics victims, some of whom, now are in their 40s, and looks just like them. But it's new imagery, and what do we do about it? Because it's not actually them. So there's all kinds of weird aspects of this, both from the ingestion and the creation side, that have become really interesting problems, particularly when it comes to children and their privacy and whatnot. Because some LLM, I don't know which one, has been training off the dark web. Because obviously the
Yep.
FBI is not saying
Uh,
which model it is, but at least one has trained off of imagery off the dark web. So
yeah. I mean, also, who's to say that like you have things that are hidden on the dark web, but there are also things that are not, what
the kid on
constitutes dark
Twitter,
in your
right? There
right.
was the kid on Twitter that had to get a lawyer involved and sued Twitter, because at like 13 or something, somebody somehow posted naked pictures of him or naked video of him or something, and Twitter wouldn't take it down. They said it didn't violate their policies. And he had to get
Right.
lawyers
Yes.
involved and the whole
Well,
thing. And because it was on Twitter, it's public. That stuff is everywhere, and
yep.
the adult sites have to also play whack-a-mole with this content because people keep uploading it there. So that's on the ClearNet. That stuff is available for training anyway.
Yeah. Did you hear about? I'm trying to remember the name of this project, but somebody made a camera, an AI camera that will make anyone appear nude.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's actually like I don't think they're selling it yet. Yeah, it is called the uh, let's see, the Nuka, Nuca. Um, and they have like a video of it that's kind of creepy, that where they show like taking pictures of people who are fully clothed, and what it does is it's not that it can see under their clothes, it just makes a very plausible naked body for them,
Right.
right? And so much so that you'd believe it, right? Like, um, and it kind of almost begs the question, like, if there's a naked picture of you out there circulating on the internet, how much worse is it whether it's real or not? Like, does it matter whether if people think that it's real? Does it matter whether it's real or not?
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Because perception is reality, right?
Right.
Real or not, once it's out there, it's out there.
Right. So he thought it was kind of funny, to kind of show how easy it is to use AI to kind of uh, take away people's privacy. And I get that, the statement that this person was trying to make. So, I mean, if the technology is out there, then there will be people who use it like this. But
Yeah.
it's not great. I mean, we might have to all, as a society, get used to the idea that, like, at any given time, there could be what we used to call photoshopped picture of you out there,
Yeah.
right? It's just a little bit less. It's just less effort than it took. You don't need someone with Photoshop skills now, but nevertheless,
The website is fascinating. It suggests that this isn't intended to actually be a sold product and more of an art commentary on the current trajectory of AI. But once the idea is out there, the idea is out there, and somebody else will make it available if this person doesn't. Yeah, it's certainly not great. I would be very interested, back to our previous topic there, I'd be curious to see what limitations are put on it for obvious reasons. Because now all of a sudden you've got other CSAM issues and perspective problems. It's all right. Yeah, AI.
great
With any
great
new
situation.
technology, there's always, or technological leaps, there's always the legal, ethical, and moral questions around it. You know, we all know the famous quote when they set off the first atomic bomb, right? There's always the concerns, but this one seems special. Because it touches so many aspects of life. All right. Now you're getting me into a pensive mood.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm mostly joking. I've been there on this topic since the beginning. Anyway, yeah, so lots of stuff on the meta side. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it. The penalties are steep here. 6% of global financial turnover for the company if found in violation, and if they're found in violation multiple times of the same aspect of the DSA, they can be fully banned in the EU. So, I mean, the penalties on the DSA are stiff. They are not messing around. This is some serious stuff. We will definitely be hearing more about this and the algorithm-based investigation that's not minor related that was opened a couple of weeks ago. We'll definitely be hearing about those over the coming months. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. Let's talk not about AI for a little bit. And instead, let's talk about sports. There has been a sports streaming service that has been in the works for a little while. We found out some details about it, including the name. I have not heard it spoken. I've only seen it written. And I'm going to guess that it's Venu, Venu, because that would make sense for sports. but it is a partnership platform between Disney, which is ABC and ESPN, Fox, which obviously is Fox Sports, and Warner Brothers Discovery, which, if you... Oh no. I got this a little wrong. I'll have to fix it. Which owns everything. Turner, for example. So lots of sports brands under that one. So Venu will combine the offerings of all of these services together into one mega service, including a bunch of the ESPN stuff, Fox Sports, which means F1 racing, and a whole bunch of other services. They specifically want to position this service as the one-stop shop for sports fans. Of course, there are some glaring omissions here. The NFL, for example, is spread out across everybody. This coming season, Netflix is getting in on the action. Amazon Prime has content. NBC, CBS. Yeah, the NFL's everywhere. The Olympics, exclusive broadcast and streaming rights in the United States go to NBC Universal, who's not part of this partnership. Premier Soccer, not part of this, because again, that contract is with NBC in North America, or at least in the U.S. Non-stop or one-stop shop, maybe not, but certainly a great home for a lot of stuff, right? With ESPN, lots of stuff comes along with that. You've got things like TNT and TBS that have a lot of basketball. There certainly will be a lot of content here. While we have a name and a logo, an ownership group, content, what we don't have is a detailed launch period or a launch date. We have a launch period. It's expected fall of 2024. That was the expectation kind of all along, even before the name and all that was announced. We also don't have a price. Analysts have a number, and they're thinking it could be $50 a month. I don't know about you, Avram, but I get annoyed at 17 or whatever it is for Netflix. 50 is a pretty steep number.
Seems like we're back at cable.
Yeah, exactly.
We're back at cable. It's just a matter of who's getting paid. Which I guess I appreciate that this has kind of opened the business model up.
Is it a case of who's getting paid? Not. Because it's Disney, it's Warner, it's Fox, Paramount is Paramount, Hulu is Disney, Peacock is Comcast. We're kind of in a similar boat. There are exceptions, though.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. There is room for like some smaller names, but increasingly those smaller names.
There's also room for Netflix, who isn't any of those companies.
Right. So Netflix isn't any of those companies, and then you also have stuff like, I don't know if Crunchyroll is now owned by somebody big or whatever, but
I think it's owned by Sony.
Like, okay, so there's stuff. Who owns BritBox? Is that let's see, founded by BBC Studios and ITV. So they don't own a cable service, do they? I mean,
not here,
right? I mean, there's Sony. Little services.
Crunchyroll.
Sony owns what? Crunchyroll. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just always like, I don't know who owns Shutter.
Well, that's interesting.
But you're right. There is. I don't have Shutter or whatever. But I'm just saying, owned and operated by AMC.
Which I guess technically does have, well, I think the AMC networks are might be owned by Turner.
Yeah, okay, you can't win exactly. So,
It's
but
like trying to find.
but you
It's
know
like
what?
trying to find ice cream that's not owned by Unilever. You know.
But but still, you have one thing that's kind of interesting is that you have a situation where, like, it used to be that you were paying Verizon or Comcast or Cox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all this money, and then they were sort of paying the carriage fees.
Yeah.
And now we've sort of cut out the middleman,
Yeah.
um,
It's true.
which net neutrality, I guess, or at least the appearance of it has helped, right? Because otherwise they could say, oh, you can, you have to buy your Netflix through us if you want it to
Right.
come, or Netflix has to pay us off or whatever. So
Right.
it's now those companies are a dumb pipe, which is what I want from them, right? I don't want the company that controls the wire to the internet connection in my house to control the content that I'm getting over it.
Right.
But nevertheless, you're right. It is a lot of consolidation, and it is kind of out of control how many different things there are. But I think what this proves is that you know businesses are trying to make money in this age and in this day and age, and we're unfortunately the models that used to bring money in are not as effective. Getting just running on advertising alone is not. I mean, for some things they're able to do it, but a lot it's like now it's advertising plus subscription fee,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, and
And
so they have to
sometimes,
charge subscription fees.
sometimes you can pay the subscription fee to have no ads and still get ads for the platform that they go, oh, but that's not an ad. That's
That's
sorry, I'm
promotion.
Paramount Plus. It's been driving me nuts lately. I pay for the no ads,
Yeah.
but I keep getting ads for Paramount Plus on Paramount Plus. I'm already a subscriber. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
The internet's still a wild place. But yeah, it's still a lot of the same companies that were involved in cable, but we're getting to piecemeal it out some, right?
Mhm.
But then on the other side, we've talked about it many times. Subscription fatigue is real. People are getting tired of
Yeah.
all these of little subscriptions. $5 here and $10 there and $3 here. This one's gonna be $50,
Yeah.
bud. This
Yeah.
one's gonna
There's
be
a
$50.
Yeah, that's really significant. I mean, listen, I wish that, we lived in a world where all of my needs except this were provided. Then, then, then we could have a wonderful discussion about like how to use my disposable income, right? Like, you know, give me, all my food, my medical care, my house, and then I can decide if I want to spend my money on Netflix premium plan or on the sports network or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think for most people, all of these things kind of cut into their necessities. And what what can you do to not spend this money? Don't watch something,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm really tempted to, it's something I have to kind of just to discuss with my wife because there's certain things that she likes to watch. But periodically, I'll just say like, "Hey, are you still watching this channel? When's the last time you watched it? Because because maybe I should cancel it." Um, I canceled one the other day. I was not watching I subscribed to Acorn TV. They didn't have a lot going on. So, and it was like an annual subscription. So if you had like one chance a year to cancel it, right? And so
Yeah.
I did.
those are
But
those are always rough, those annual things.
and then what kills me is um, what kills me is that like a month later they had put on a show that I wanted to see.
Of course. Isn't that always the way?
Right? Right? Um, so
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes for a couple of reasons, right? The first is the price. $50 a month, upwards of $50 a month is a lot of money. And I think that's going to be really limiting for the service. But there's also another interesting thing here. It's 3 media companies coming together to create a merger streaming service. Where have we heard this before? Oh, yes, Hulu. Hulu started as a joint venture between 3 of the 4 broadcasters. It was ABC, NBC, and Fox, which at the time were Disney, I think technically GE, and News Corp. At one point, Turner came in and bought 3.33% from everybody. They had 10%. Then they ended up leaving, and then everything with Paramount went the way it went. And now Hulu is owned by Disney because they bought Fox, and then they bought Comcast out, and now Hulu Plus is just owned by Disney. So, and as that has happened, content has fallen off, right? NBC's stuff is no longer on there anymore. And the Fox stuff that didn't come over in the the buyout isn't on there anymore. And the Turner stuff is, I think, shows up a lot on Hulu now, or on Netflix now. I saw Archer just hit Netflix. The last season did, which is Turner. So, we watched content start falling away as that relationship changed, and it's always possible that we see the same thing here, right? There's always the possibility that this relationship starts out great, and then over time, partners start shedding off because they're not as interested in it, or they want to go build their own thing like Comcast did with the Peacock, or whatever it is. It may start out great and end up being something very different than it is today. They might lose licenses for sports, and all of a sudden now it's less interesting. It's an interesting gamble for both the companies and for consumers to put faith into.
yeah.
So,
Yep, it certainly is.
it's an interesting idea. Obviously, sports is big business. And I can understand why these companies, who each have, partial licenses for things, would want to come together to create this behemoth. But so much of sports is so fractured. The NFL is always the best example, because you can watch different things from the NFL on NBC, ABC, ESPN, CBS, Fox, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and YouTube TV. And then there's the NFL Sunday Ticket. It's all over the place, right?
Yep. It's too much. It's too much.
So nobody's ever going to be able to consolidate, and in fact, the likelihood is that over time they will lose access to stuff. So I don't know. I understand the idea. I just don't know how long it's going to work for. And if people aren't that interested in subscribing to ESPN Plus, I don't know, for like $10, I don't entirely know how they think that adding Warner and Fox into this is going to take it to 50. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely.
Yeah, but
I mean, whatever. They're trying to get their money, but good luck with that.
indeed. But I guess we will see when this thing launches exactly what it ends up looking like and how it's received. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We always appreciate our live listeners and viewers. If you didn't join us live this time, would like to next time. Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us. Gives you the ability to chat with us during the show, give us your feedback. We always love that. If you're not able to join us live, that's okay as well. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all the ways to watch, listen, and follow along. That includes on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and X, through the video platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, Twitch, and of course on our website. So with that, I guess on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we'll see you back next time. Ciao.